Hello students, welcome back to my class. Today we are going to study one of the modern poems from Dylan Thomas. The name of the poem is Fern. Dylan Thomas, as we know, he was a poet during the post-war period as well as the interwar period, and he was considered by the historian Edward Albert as the father of neo-romanticism in the post-war poetry. And by bringing romantic elements and particularly nature in a very significant manner into poetry, he antagonized the intellectualism that was dominant during the period. And as a true Celtic poet, or in the true sense of a Celtic poet, he exhibited a very deep passion, as well as he was a connoisseur of the magic of language. His experiments and innovations in the use of language in poetry produced a magical effect on the reader. This particular poem, Thornhill, it takes its title from the farmhouse that Dylan Thomas was visiting very frequently during his childhood days, which belonged to his aunt. And this farmhouse was situated in Carmarthenshire in the southwestern part of Wales, with its greenery and the nature all around. The farmhouse attracted the child Thomas to fantasize with it in a very creative manner. So, as a poet in his adulthood, he is remembering those childhood experiences and memories to bring back into his life of the contemporary period when he composed the poem around 1945. The bliss of childhood that could give respite from his sufferings. So, the Thornhill brings back his memories of fresh, innocent childhood being celebrated in the pastoral beauty of the landscape with its idyllic setting. And here in this poem, both time and setting have emerged as characters, along with the poet as the child. And the reminiscence of childhood through pastoral mode has made this poem very attractive. As a result, this poem is one of the most anthologized of Thomas's creativity. And the poem also brings out in its first three parts. The poem can be divided into 5 parts. In the first 3 parts, we find the poet is very vividly remembering his childhood activities and interactions in that pastoral setting of the Fern Hill. And the last two sections of the poem or parts of the poem, they deal with the challenges on the part of adult Dylan Thomas to deal with this paradoxical existence of the child within the adult and the craving for that childhood, which can never be made eternal in spite of all his artistic efforts. So, let us go back to the poem. The poem begins, "Now as I was young and easy under the apple boughs, about the lilting house and happy as the grass was green, the night above the dingle's starry time let me hail and climb, golden in the heydays of his eyes." So, the poet is using some unusual phrases, some magical phrases to create a magic of the lost period, to create the nostalgic remembrance of a truant childhood. So, now I was young and easy under the apple bough. So, the very word now here suggests the binary that he is adult, but the moment he remembers and he enters into his childhood memory, so he could visualize himself as young and easy under the apple boughs, because the Fern Hill farmhouse was surrounded by the apple orchards and he was thinking himself as the wanderer under the apple boughs. About the lilting house, and he is referring to the house, the farmhouse, as lilting, as if it is singing, as if it is dancing, rejoicing along with the child, because the child always thinks that all the objects around it reciprocate or are in the concurrence with its own actions, motives, feelings, emotions, so on and so forth. So, the lilting house and happy as the grass was green, and he was very happy as the grass was green. Here he is also using colors, and green is suggesting of that enthusiasm, youthfulness, that intense passion. The night above the dingle's starry time let me hail and climb. So, time is personified and time is allowing the adult Dylan to enter into that childhood, golden in the heydays of his eyes, and he is using another color, that is golden. Golden represents the happiness, golden represents the ecstatic experience of life. So, golden in the heydays of his age, and honored among wagons, I was prince of the apple town. That he is using this word honored several times throughout the poem to give the meaning, the suggestiveness, that how he was a truant and how his truancy was being reciprocated by the whole environment. So, he was honored among the wagons. I was prince of the apple town. So, the wagon drivers, they knew this truant boy running helter and skelter and climbing the wagons and doing something very naughty. So, he was honored, he was respected, they were responding to him and his movements. And once below a time I lordly had the trees and leaves trail with daisies and barley down the rivers of the windfall light. Here, by the end of this stanza, he is giving us the impression of the Garden of Eden by these images of daisies and barley and the rivers of the windfall light. So, once below a time means going down the memory lane in his childhood, he lordly had the trees and leaves. He was the master, he was the owner, he was in partner with all around the trees and leaves, all were his partners. So, in this way, the child is completely lost in the harmony with nature, completely merged and submerged with the natural interactions. And as I was green and carefree, famous among the barns, about the happy yard and singing as the farmer's home, in the sun that is young once only, time let me play and be golden in the mercy of his means. I was green and carefree. He was green, he was enthusiastic, he was excited, he was passionate to move around the state of innocence, as we find in Wordsworth's poetry, dividing the different stages of his life, interacting with nature. In his innocence of the childhood, Wordsworth was running like a roe. So here, Thomas is also expressing the same feeling, that he was so passionate about each and every object of nature, every manifestation of nature, and carefree. This word emphasizes the state of childhood. It differentiates with the adulthood, that adulthood is burdened with the responsibility, the cares. So, that is distinguished, famous among the barns. He was also famous among the barns. The cattle in the barns, they were also responding to him, they were also respecting to him, because he was moving around and he was known to them as a truant boy. About the happy yard and singing, the farm was home, and the farm was home. Everywhere he was finding as if the nature is singing when he was running here and there, as if everything is a celebration, life is a celebration. The sun that is young once only, and at that time the sun was young, because Dylan himself was young. Time let me play and be golden in the mercy of his means. So time allowed him to play and be the golden one, to be a happy, ecstatic child, at least for this time. And green and golden, I was huntsman and herdsman, the calves sang to my horn, the foxes on the hills barked clear and cold. And he finds the blending of both green and golden. He was enthusiastic, he was ecstatic, at the same time he was enjoying the life to the brim. And he was the huntsman and he was the herdsman. He was living the life of the fantasy. It is a world of fantasy amidst the nature. Nature emerging as his partner. Nature emerging as the different objects that a child wants to play with, the child wants to spend time with. So he was both a huntsman and a herdsman. The calves sang to my horn, and the calves in the barn, they sang to his horn when he was singing on the horn. This is a reference to the romantic idea of Robin Hood, the romantic legend of Robin Hood, that he was a Robin Hood. He was thrilled. The foxes on the hills barked clear and cold. The foxes on the hills also responded to his playing with the horn. And the Sabbath rang slowly in the pebbles, the holy streams. and time went on. For the child, time moved on without any boundary. The space and time, they flowed continuously like the water in the stream near the village, where on the pebbles the water simply moved on with its continuous murmuring, singing. The time went on, but as a child he continued without being aware of the passage of time. Though it was the Sabbath day, the Sabbath rang slowly, but for the child Thomas, there was no Sabbath. There was no stoppage. Every day is the same day. All the sun long it was running. It was lovely, the hay fields high as the house. The tunes from the chimneys, it was air and playing lovely and watery. The sun long. Look at the beautiful use of the phrase, the sun long. Means it is the daytime. He also uses moon long, sun long. These are the innovations. These are the very magical use of the language that Thomas is known for. So, sun long it was running, it was lovely, the hay fields high as the house, the tunes from the chimneys it was air. The child was running, he was enjoying each and every aspect of the life around, the nature, the haystacks which were as high as the house, and the chimneys which were creating beautiful tune in the air because of the flaps on the top of the chimneys were being rhythmically moved by the air, and the tunes from the chimney. So the chimneys were also creating the tune. The young boy is finding as if everyone is singing. They are happy because he himself is happy. His happiness is being visualized through the happiness of the nature. It was air and playing lovely and watery and fire green as grass. So air is moving around the chimney and creating that beautiful tune, and it is lovely and watery. In the streams, the water is singing. In the chimney, the air is singing, and the fire green as grass. And the grass is also green, and it is fire green as grass. The fire in the hearth, the fire is also singing. The fire in the kitchen, it is also singing. It is also burning with its rhyme. And nightly under the simple stars, as I rode to sleep, the owls were bearing the farm away. The green as grass. So the fire is green as grass. Again, the green is suggesting the intensity, the enthusiasm on the part of the fire, which is also dancing and singing with the tune of this boy. And nightly under the simple stars. And as soon as the evening comes, the child is tired of its movement throughout the day, and it takes rest. And as soon as it takes rest, it comes to the yard of the farmhouse. It finds the stars in the sky. They are also very simple. Here the word simple suggests the tiredness, no complex movement. So he is tired, he is taking rest, and the stars to him also look simple, means the stars are also fixed. They are also not moving now because he is not moving. He is not singing, so the stars are not singing. As I rode to sleep, the owls were bearing the farm away. All the moon long I heard blazed among the stables the night jars, flying with the ricks and the horses flashing into the dark. And he rode to sleep. Where he rode? He rode to that height of the stars, because stars are his friends now. In the darkness of the night, he only visualizes the stars as his partner, as his light, as his friend. So he rides to sleep as if he is going to sleep among the stars. And as soon as he falls asleep, what he sees in his dream? That the owls were bearing the farm away, as if the owls, they were taking the farm away from him. The more he is moving towards the stars in his sleep, he is finding the farmhouse is moving away and away, being taken by the owls, the nocturnal birds. All the moon long I heard, and all the moon long, sun long and moon long. Moon long means throughout the night he heard. Blessed among stables the night jars flying with the ricks, and the horses flashing into the dark. Throughout the night, if there is any activity, he found that were the night jars flying with the ricks, and the horses flashing into the dark. And the horses from the stable, they are flashing into the dark, they are running into the dark. That means the child is going to sleep, but still for him, the world around, the nature around is not static. The nature is still active, the nature is still acting, still moving, it is in the motion. And then to awaken the farm like a wanderer white, with the dew come back, the cock on his shoulder, it was all shining, it was Adam and maiden. And when he awakes, the child awakes the next morning, what he finds? The farm is there back. In the night, he found that farm was taken away, but now he finds the farm has come back like a wanderer white with the dew. And it looks very whitish with the cover of the dew. The dew throughout the night has made it whitish. But the child is thinking as if the farmhouse had wandered, because the owls kidnapped it and somewhere left it, and it has come back to its own place, to its original place. And throughout the night, as it had wandered, the dewdrops are very much there on its top. And the cock on his shoulder, and the cock is there on the shoulder of the house, declaring the break of the day. Here also, another romantic image he has used from R.L. Stevenson's novel, The Treasure Island. This is a romantic figure where the wanderer, the romantic wanderer, is moving with the birds sitting on his shoulder. So the farmhouse is emerging as a romantic wanderer. It was all shining, it was Adam and maiden, the sky gathered again, and he finds the new day as a very new beginning, Adam and maiden. The reference from the Bible towards the innocence, Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, emerging as the innocent creature. The sky gathered again. It is a new sky. It is a new morning. It is a new innocence. Everything is there waiting and inviting the child to come and explore. And the sun grew round that very day, and the sun was also very round, as if it is also a very new object, a new sun. So it must have been after the birth of the simple light in the fast spinning place, the spellbound horses walking warm out of the whinnying green stable onto the fields of praise. And the child is imagining, is fantasizing that as if this has been after the birth of the simple light. The biblical reference to creation. When the light fell, the creation was revealed. So, as if this is a new beginning, this is a new creation. This is not the world that he was in the day before, the night before. It is a new creation. As if newly a creation had been created. And in the fast spinning place, and this is also a spinning place, the spinning of the earth, the spellbound horses walking warm. The horses are running here and there like the innocent creatures, not knowing exactly anything but trying to ascertain their environment. So the spellbound horses walking one out of the whinnying green stable onto the fields of praise. This is compared with the fields of praise, the Eden, the place of praise, place of God, the place of innocence and purity. Everything around is so pure, so innocent, and so enthusiastic in participating with each other. And honored among the foxes and pheasants by the gay house under the new made clouds, and happy as the heart was long in the sun born over and over, I ran my heedless wage. And honored among the foxes and pheasants by the gay house. And again he is using the word honored. He was honored among the foxes and pheasants. They also know this child, the truant child, by his exploring every aspect of nature, by the gay house under the new made clouds, in this new made clouds in the new sky of the new day, as the heart was long. The heart was long means it is the feeling, it is the emotion in the child which is limitless, which can befriend with each and every object of this creation, of this manifested world. In the sun born over and over, I ran my heedless wage. So in this way, the days passed on. The sun was born over and over, again and again, and every morning was a new creation for the child, a new excitement, a new inquisitiveness to explore. In this way, his childhood passed in this farmhouse of Thornhill. My wishes raced through the house high hay, and nothing I cared at my sky blue trades, that time allows in all his tuneful turning, so few and such morning songs. So the child's wishes raced through the house high hay. His wishes were limitless. His wishes to be everything, to interact with every object of the nature, to explore everything all around. And nothing I cared, and there was no anxiety, there was no fear at my sky blue traits. And the sky blue traits, it is also a new creation or new magic of the words at the hands of Dylan Thomas. So sky blue traits means the trade of the blue sky. The blue sky reflect the existence of clouds of different shapes, colors, and their movement in a very freehand manner. It is most unpredictable. So is the unpredictable movement of the child. He spent his childhood in these unpredictable movements, unpredictable things, actions. What he will do next moment was even not known to him. The time allows in all his tuneful turnings to few and such morning songs, before the children green and golden follow him out of grace. And the time that allowed his entire childhood to move in this tuneful turning, in such a melodious, magical manner, to be spent among the nature, and such morning songs. And he enjoyed all the new mornings and their songs of invitation, their songs of happiness, excitement, before the children green and golden follow him out of grace. He had enjoyed all these times before he grew out of his childhood, which was the epitome of green and golden, the blending of green and golden, enthusiasm, innocence, excitement, and everything. That was the child's world, but he had lost. Now he is very sad. The adulthood is coming back to it. He cannot remain there in the childhood forever. Nothing I cared in the lamb white days that time would take me up to the swallow throng lopped by the shadow of my hand. In the moon that is always rising, nor that riding to sleep. So nothing he cared in the lamb white days. Here the lamb is again referring to the biblical idea of innocence, purity, of the divinity. As Wordsworth believed that nature as the divinity, so Thomas also subscribes to that idea that nature is divine. Therefore, he is telling, nothing I cared in the lamb white days, in those innocent days of my childhood, I cared nothing. I didn't know anything about the sufferings, anxieties, tensions of the real world or the adult world. That time would take me up to the swallow thronged locked by the shadow of my hand, in the moon that is always rising. And in those days, whenever the moon was rising, whenever there was the evening and the moon was coming with its magical light, the child was going back to that nostalgic period. And that he remembers now. In his adulthood, he remembers all those nostalgic moments of childhood by the shadow of his hand. Now that he looks at his hand and its shadow falling on the earth, he finds the difference. It is not the shadow of the child's hand, it is the shadow of the adult hand. It is the shadow of the hand of time. The time has made him grow up. In the moon that is always rising, not that riding to sleep. And no more he is riding to sleep with his friends, the stars. I should hear him ply with the high fields. He is yearning very intensely to go back and belong to that time. He wanted to ride to sleep with the stars and to listen to the singing, that hear him ply with the high fields, and also I want to listen to him, the time plying with the high fields, and wake to the farm forever fled from the childless land. And I want to wake up to the farm, that Fern hill, forever fled from the childless land, which has for all time had gone back to that memory of the childhood. It is, I want to dissociate its memory with the adult world, the childless land, where the childhood is not there. From that, the farm, I want to remove it to my childhood memory. Oh, as I was young and easy in the mercy of his means, time held me green and dying. As the time has held me in the mercy of his means, sometimes it allows me to peep into my childhood, but again the next moment it brings me back to the reality. So time is merciful, at least in making me revisit my childhood, even if it is for a very temporary moment. Time held me green and dying. Time is holding me green. I am still enthusiastic. I am still interested to go back to my childhood days and enjoy it and to experience it, but dying. But this greenness is associated not with the golden days, but with the dying. It is the death The more we are experiencing, the more the innocence is going away. It is the death of the child. The more we are growing in our adult life, the more we are being removed from our childhood, its innocence, its purity. Therefore, held me green and dying, the reality is killing. Though I sang in my chains like the sea. And finally, the poet is remembering about his suffering like a sea, like the Arnoldian sea. He is singing in the chains, the sea, the most powerful entity in this earth, covering 3/4 of the surface, is still bound by the land, and its waves are, the singing of the sea through its waves are defeated, are controlled by the land. So the poet, in spite of his enthusiasm, in spite of his desire, strong desire to go back to the childhood, to enjoy it, is chained in his adult life. So the poem ends with this frustration. But the poem is a beautiful poem that goes into the exploration of this innocence, freshness of childhood experiences, and it celebrates this childhood without any anxiety, without any complexity. And this poem brings so many references, and it shows the usual energetic spirit and colorful and musical note of Dylan Thomas's poetry. So from this poem, we can expect questions like how Thomas has depicted the harmony between man and nature, or between his childhood experience and nature. Or the question can also be asked as evaluate Fern as a neo-romantic poem. I hope you people will do justice to the questions. Thank you.